You ever have one of those moments where the whole world seems to hit pause just long enough for you to realize you're about to witness someone's life go completely sideways? That's exactly where I was standing outside the ER with my pregnant wife, doubled over, clutching my arm like she was hanging on for dear life, and Judith Merrow, the self-declared queen of Oak Ridge Reserve, waving a clipboard in my face and telling me, "You can't park here. Not, are you okay? Not, let's get your wife inside." Just pure weaponized HOA energy, like she'd been waiting her whole life for the chance to kick somebody out of the emergency lane. Let me back up a sec. I'm Daniel Rohr, hospital infrastructure designer by trade, proud owner of the world's most over-engineered medical van. My wife's lifeline, our family's best shot at bringing a healthy baby into this world. And I can tell you right now, nothing in my 20 years of fighting city codes and building for every worst-case scenario prepared me for the kind of pettiness Judith brought that afternoon, clipboard angled like a bayonet voice, sharp enough to leave a mark. Alyssa's contractions were coming fast, but Judith didn't flinch. Not when Alyssa cried out, not even when I picked her up out of the van and carried her inside. Judith just pointed up at the faded sign above the red zone like it was the 10 Commandments. HOA regulations override non-critical transport. I wanted to laugh, except I couldn't not with my wife gasping in pain. That was the moment it shifted for me. That exact second when a woman more obsessed with bylaws than basic decency made my family her target, I decided right there she was going to regret it. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I just said, "This van is medically outfitted, coded by hospital specs, and I'm the one who certified that code." For a split second, I saw it crack Judith's grip on her little empire. But she recovered quick. People like her always do. If you've ever tasted that spark of satisfaction standing up to a bully, well, buckle up. This isn't just a story about getting even. It's a playbook for how to win. See, that van was my blueprint, my promise. The old permit still taped to the window wasn't just a sticker, it was a marker for the child we lost. A reminder that next time I'd be ready, so I built it, custom pressure cushions, hospital air filters, folding medical ramp, everything to keep Alyssa safe. But the HOA, they wanted to pretend their rules meant more than my wife's lungs, more than a baby's heartbeat. So there we were, me laying Alyssa on the intake bed, making sure her monitors were on, and Judith still hanging around like some bureaucratic grim reaper. I told her straight-faced, "Your office never processed my license modification forms." 3 months ago, her lips twitched. She had no clue I kept records. I let her know I'd noticed her unauthorized surveillance 2-state code puts a $5,000 fine on that if you file it right. For the first time, she stepped back. Didn't apologize, just whispered to the ER security. 10 minutes later, 2 staffers come in. Say Alyssa needs to be moved because of a disturbance, the disturbance apparently being me. They wheeled my wife out mid-monitor hookup before our OB even arrived. And as they passed Judith in the hallway, I swear that woman smiled. That was it. The world snapped into clarity. This wasn't just about rules. It was personal. And if it was personal, well, then it was open season. The van was gone the next morning. Towed. No warning, no notice, just a bare driveway and a scrap of permit sticker stuck to the concrete like a headstone. Hospital called to ask about an uninsured commercial vehicle. Judith had flagged it herself. I called the tow company. They said HOA. Called the office straight to voicemail, no surprise. You ever stand in the sun and realize the silence isn't peaceful, it's just fake. Like the whole place is designed to erase you if you don't fit the brochure. Yeah, that was my street that day. Found an orange violation notice wedged in the hedge, didn't even bother with the door. Laundry list of offenses: unauthorized vehicle non-compliance structure. Even the underglow on the van's monitor system counted as a visual obstruction. And right at the bottom, bold and underlined repeat offenses could mean cumulative fines and escalated enforcement. I folded the letter, hands shaking, not from fear, Not anymore. Inside, Alyssa was asleep. Didn't even know the van was gone. I wasn't about to tell her. Not until I had a plan. Opened the HOA portal, half the links broken. Minutes full of vague language. Buried in the June meeting, I saw it. Judith motioned to streamline emergency towing in security-sensitive scenarios. Seconded by Reggie Lynn, our neighbor, the guy who helped me carry a dresser once never looked comfortable at those meetings. But there it was. Motion passed. I started my timeline dates, photos, letters, hospital records, even the ADA permit confirmation. I wasn't just pushing back, I was building a surgical case. Then a knock at the door. Reggie couldn't look me in the eye. I didn't know they were going to tow it, he mumbled. Turns out the tow request was submitted before they even voted on it. Timestamp proved it. I think I messed up, he said and left. That was the fracture I needed. HOA bylaws said 48 hours and a formal vote before enforcement. Judith. She jumped the gun by 5 hours, no warning, just raw power. That's not just a mistake, that's exposure. That's liability. The next morning, Reggie was watering his HOA-mandated ceramic planter succulents that could survive nuclear winter. I walked over, thanked him for the printout. He just shook his head. Looked like a guy who'd just realized he'd sold his soul for a parking space. She wants you out, he muttered. Anyone who doesn't fit. He handed me the draft of a new policy. This one aimed right at me, banning any non-commercial vehicle modifications, naming medical hardware specifically. I told him, then don't be part of it. And he didn't argue. That afternoon, I started building my packet, every ADA regulation, every compliance clause. 3 days later, a fine arrived stacked with late fees and a line about persistent non-compliance. They even flagged my mobility ramp behind the garage as an irrigation trench. Judith's games were getting desperate, but she didn't know I was documenting every move. Landscaping contractor showed up sent by the HOA. Need to quote a correction for your grade slope, he said. It's not irrigation, it's medical, I replied. Let him scan it. More paperwork, more trail. That night, deep in ADA regulations, I found my crack in the wall. Any association imposing penalties without demonstrating equivalent access or appeal could trigger federal review. Judith had signed for Alyssa's medical documents 2 months ago. She knew exactly what she was doing. But I wasn't stopping with ADA. The county inspection portal showed a pending work stop on a landscaping project Judith's cousin's company never re-inspected. That's public safety. One phone call, and I had city inspectors on standby. The real twist, Linda Harrington, my old colleague, still chaired the county ADA panel. I walked into her office with a folder thick enough to stop a bullet. She flipped through page by page and said, "You've got grounds. The ADA doesn't mess around." When she read Judith's line about interpreting medical necessity, she just shook her head. If this passes, she's gambling with federal exposure. Back home, Alyssa looked up scared. They called. The HOA wants to re-inspect. I took her hand. They won't get away with it. That night, I backed up everything USB drive labeled ADA escalation hidden behind the breaker panel just in case. Then came the threat letter. No signature. Just withdraw your claims or the next notice won't be paper. That's when you know it's not about rules, it's about control. I pulled out the drainage inspection. Judith's cousin had altered the slope above the storm basin. No permit, no variance, pure negligence. I sent everything to Linda, copied city inspectors. By noon, I had an official inspection scheduled. Now I wasn't reacting. I was setting the clock. Reggie showed up again the night before the board meeting, hands shaking, but this time with a flash drive. She recorded your phone calls, claims the bylaws override state law. They don't, of course. He gave me the original policy draft invoices, vendor lists. She used HOA funds for her cousin's unlicensed work, Daniel. She thinks no one will care. But I cared. Next morning, 3 copies of everything, the discriminatory draft, the vendor receipts, The inspection orders audio of Judith calling my wife's pregnancy a distraction. No speech, no drama, just facts. By 8 a.m., the boardroom was packed, neighbors buzzing. Judith tried to push her new policy. Reggie wouldn't second it. "I withdraw my support," he said. Dropped the folder on the table. Original draft targeted ADA accommodations. Contractor is her cousin. Gasps. Judith tried to pivot, too late. I stepped forward, handed my packet to the board secretary. "These documents are already with the agencies that matter." The board froze the vote. Legal review. I left with Reggie, both of us knowing it wasn't over, but now Judith was on the clock. That afternoon, the city confirmed 6 violations for the illegal slope work. Public safety risk. Judith stepped down from the board temporarily. The new board froze all vehicle fines, flagged the van's removal order for review. Reggie moved for a full audit of every HOA contract. For the first time, neighbors asked questions, offered quiet support. The old fear was gone. Change was happening. 3 days later, the Department of Housing and Urban Development sent their findings: violations of ADA, retaliatory enforcement, misuse of funds. Judith's name was now a warning, not a badge of power. Alyssa sat on the porch, hand on her belly. "She's kicking again." She smiled. "She's going to be stubborn," I joked. "She's going to be protected," she replied. The rain washed away the last bits of the old sticker on the driveway. I finished building the new van, this one with a rear-facing infant seat ready just in case. When our daughter finally arrived, the hospital waved us through. The van parked up front, no complaints, no drama. Judith was gone. The new board president was already enrolling for ADA training. We held our baby safe and whole in a world that felt just a little more just. So here's my question. Who really gets to decide what belongs in a community? Is it the ones with the loudest rules or the ones willing to fight for what matters most? Drop your thoughts below, share your story, and if you've ever stood your ground against HOA insanity, hit subscribe. Because sometimes justice doesn't start in a courtroom, it starts right on your own front porch.